This is part two of looking at sophisticated writing and rhetorical analysis. If you missed part one, you should see it in the same channel. So we're looking at another example response here to the Claire Booth Luce prompt, where she is speaking to women in wartime, asking them to kind of sacrifice some comfort and luxury so that they can help take on more domestic responsibility during World War II. And so this response is going to check all the boxes in the sophisticated column on the rubric. Does not mean it is a perfect response. Doesn't have to be. I mean, any timed right is considered a draft. And so let's dig in and let's look at this. Let's look at this example. So as Luce progresses with her speech, she continues to build a female bond with her audience, referring to them as us women and speaking of their husbands as our men, including herself in the message that she is delivering. Luce also takes on a universal approach to the rationing effort, telling all women that they must accept the great big fact that the war will hard on all portions of civilian life. Introducing this concept of total war, Luce also states the grim conclusion, an empathetic statement to show that she acknowledges the uncomfortableness of her actions, that women must be prepared to sacrifice their luxury. She frames this in two ways. Her first appeal is to the women's maternal instincts. Luce's strict but gentle tone could be interpreted as an experienced matron advising her younger counterparts, and by mentioning the precious treasures that the women fight to protect, she contrasts the war front with the home front, comparing civilians and soldiers to children and their mothers. In doing so, Luce also makes the female sacrifice a necessity for women. Just as the soldiers must perform their duty, women must be ready to part with their luxuries, because both are essential towards gaining, quote, the victory for which they fight. Luce also refrains from depicting this lifestyle as glamorous, with her opening points explicitly stating that glamour is out. Although the next few crucial years are essential to the war effort, a concept that Luce is continuously reinforcing, by explicitly telling her audience that rationing will be hard, she makes this message seem more genuine by including herself in that population of us women. She also serves as an example of someone who has already come to the grim realization of what the next years hold for women. Her last passages, with her tone, where her tone shifts from more gentle to more firm, are the crux of her argument. And it is here that she hammers in the necessity of female sacrifice. Women, as she says, quote, must fight a hard war. They, quote, have got to conclude that their comfort is a saboteur of their efforts. The repetition of that concept throughout the speech, coupled with the rapport that she builds with her audience, opens them up to accepting her message by, one, suggesting that the compliance comes from a place of female understanding and consideration. And for 1940s, an audience of 1940s feminists, knowing that the suggestion is female originated makes them more likely to accept it as girl-to-girl advice. And two, making it seem absolutely necessary for the survival of, quote, their men and their nation. And so there's a lot going on with this response, so I tried to break it apart so that we could look at some of the different presentations of evidence and analysis more easily. So the first one is towards the top of the paragraph there. Her first appeal is to women's maternal instincts. Luce's strict but gentle tone could be interpreted as an experienced matron advising her younger counterparts, and by mentioning the precious treasures that women, quote, fight to protect, she contrasts the war front with the home front, comparing civilians and soldiers to children and their mothers. And so there's deep analysis that goes along with this. This writer does a good job of not just introducing points, but also they make sure to follow up those points and connect them. So in doing so, Luce also makes the female sacrifice a necessity. So using maternal instinct, referring to the children as precious treasure, contrasting the war front with the home front, is going to create this idea in her audience that the sacrifice is a necessity, right? Just as soldiers perform their duty, women have to be ready to part with their luxuries, because that's what's essential towards gaining the victory for which they fight. It's a very clear line of reasoning. that this writer has done a pretty good job of establishing. Uh, Luce also refrains from depicting this lifestyle as glamorous. This is a conscious effort on her part, this writer is suggesting, um, with her opening points explicitly stating that glamour is out. And so they follow that up with analysis too. They say the next few crucial years are essential to the war effort. By explicitly telling her audience that rationing will be hard, she makes this message seem more genuine. She's not lying to them. She's not sugarcoating it, right? She includes herself in the population of us women. She also serves as an example of someone that has come from this grim realization of what the future holds. And so, again, both of these points are not superficial. They have multiple rhetorical elements involved, and this writer's doing a good job of explaining how those different rhetorical elements, the contrast, the word choice, the appeal to instinct, the upfrontness of our speaker, right? The fact that Congresswoman Luce is just flat out telling her audience that the future is going to be grim in some cases in terms of, sacrificing some of those luxuries and glamour that American women at this point maybe are a little bit more used to. All these things kind of work together to help make her overall message fit. And so that's what this writer is building to in their paragraph. And so towards the end of the analysis, the writer moves into putting all these points together. They talk about the tone shift. Her last passages where her tone shifts from being more gentle to more firm are the crux of her argument. And it is here that she hammers in the necessity for female sacrifice. Women, as she says, must fight a hard war. They have got to conclude that their comfort is a saboteur to their efforts. And so, true to form, they do a good job of following up their idea with some explanation. They talk about the repetition of the concept, the idea that this is something that must happen or has got to happen. In coupling that repetition with the rapport, the relationship that she builds with her audience as us girls, could open them up to accept her message, right? The first way it connects them is it suggests that the compliance comes from a place of female understanding, right? This isn't some, like hard-nosed 19th century, male alpha telling the sweet little women to give up their powder puffs and stuff, right? And this is, an empowered woman, a congressman in 1942, appealing to a group of other empowered women from the banking community, okay, to make this conscious choice, to do their part, okay? It's more an appeal to duty than an intimidation or an appeal to authority. And so this person recognizes that as this, coming across more as like girl talk, girl to girl advice, like here's what we need to do, girls, okay? And that recognizing that would make the message more effective. An audience of empowered females would probably not be as ready to listen to an alpha male. And so the second reason they say it connects all these concepts to the speech is that it creates that necessity, okay? This appeal to our most basic of instincts in terms of survival, right? This isn't like so that we can help other people. This is so that we can help, our children, our precious treasures, our men, right? And so, she kind of adds this accountability element. Claire Luce does at the end of her speech, and this writer does a really good job of capturing that and putting it in context. And so, overall, if you go back and look at the paragraph, you see that this writer combines appeal, tone, diction, comparison, gender influence, political goals, social stereotypes, repetition, logical, appeals, all in this deep explanation. Recognizing how acutely aware the speaker is of their audience. Okay. It doesn't just identify influential elements of this strategy, but it allows the explanation, the analysis portions of this paragraph allow me as a reader to see this writer's perspective of Claire Booth Luce's speech. And so again, it's not a perfect paragraph, but it is very well done. And in terms of the analysis, the depth is absolutely sophisticated. Um, if we go back and look at the criteria, um, remember we're not looking for merely a phrase or a reference, but this sophistication and complex understanding has to be part of the student's argument. And I think that absolutely fits here. They did a really good job of explaining the significance and the relevance of the writer's rhetorical choices in the situation. They didn't just mention that, you know, she appealed to mothers and she's a female, and so therefore it would be better. But they talked about how that appealed to motherhood, the fact that she's female, couples with the contrast between the home front and the war front, and all these other elements in the speech too. And so what you see here is not just a purpose or function of a single rhetorical choice or a small set of isolated rhetorical choices, but what you're seeing here is the complexity and the tension that Claire Booth Luce is dealing with in this moment. And so this responder did a really good job of capturing that complexity and really outlining it in a way that's easy to follow for their audience, for me, the reader. So remember, if you're looking at sophistication, go back up to my reminder slide here. You don't get credit for sophistication if you've not written a complete analysis. Okay. Even if you meet some of the criteria, like if you have really vivid writing, but your idea is incomplete, then you're not going to get a point for sophistication. So that's going to be the most important thing to do first, is to make sure you have your idea complete. So if that's something that you're still struggling with, I definitely suggest going back to one of the earlier videos where we talk about WPAE and using that structure to kind of complete your idea first before you start worrying about being sophisticated. So you can check out more videos on my channel, or you can go to the AP Lang channel on YouTube. There's a bunch of really excellent live lessons and stuff like that on there that are available for a bunch of different topics, including this one. So thanks for listening.